I don't take no for an answer. It was more of like I had to like prove myself to people like, oh, I'm competent, I'm an expert in this field. And then I had to gain their trust and confidence. And I think it's about resilience, patience, and then the passions. And then you have people who are offering you, come work for us, the future is bright. Our biggest challenge would be half-truths. They tell you to do A and they've done B, C, which will affect the A they've instructed you to do. If you're caught for sexual abuse, psychological, cyberbullying, you're prosecuted immediately. Parents should get very close to their child or their children. People believe that lawyers are only meant for cases. But it was a critical factor. I will not lie to you. Chelsea can never send an invite to a player who has never played in any form of professional football. It's not possible.
So your experience, what would you say are the challenges you faced while representing clients in sport? Our guest is a distinguished sport lawyer, a visionary, a pioneer, and someone whose work is shaping the future of African sports law and the brains behind FLAM. He exemplifies integrity, purpose, and faith-driven leadership. Please join me welcome Barrister Pius Ndubuokwu. Hello everyone, welcome to Rash4Christ podcast. It's a podcast where we dive into the real stories of impactful individuals who inspire through their remarkable resilience and unwavering faith in God. We invite different guests from different walks of life, from different fields of endeavors, different experts in different fields, to come here and educate us, enlighten us, and help us strengthen our Christian experience. And I am your host, Rasheedat Ajibade. I am a professional football player. I currently play for Paris Saint-Germain in France, and I'm a passionate believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And as you all know, I be fine girl. We love Jesus. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, a visionary, a pioneer, and someone whose work is shaping the future of African sports law. Our guest is a distinguished sport lawyer, founder of PCN Sportiva LP, and the brains behind FLAM. That is, FLAM is an acronym for the Football Law Annual Moot. FLAM is a Nigerian sport law moot competition. So our guest represented clients at FIFA tribunals and the Court of Arbitration for Sport to securing justice for grassroots football academies. He exemplified integrity, purpose, and faith-driven leadership. Please join me welcome to the show, Barrister Pius Ndubuokwu. So welcome to Pius. So thank you for taking our time to be with us on this particular episode on Rash4Christ podcast. So let's get started. How was life like? Take us back to childhood in the village in Delta State, growing up in the farm. What was life like for you?
I think for me, life was very simple for me. Simple. In the little we had, it was fun because basically I grew up with my cousins and my friends. All we had to do was wake up Monday to Saturday, go to the farm, morning to evening, come back, eat, go to sleep, wake up the next day, go to farm aside from school. And then on Sunday, go to church. I'm a Catholic. Weekdays, we go to catechism, or for those in choir practice, they go to choir. They go to choir practice. For those in various pious organizations, they go to their pious societies and so on and so forth. So for us, it was fun back then. We didn't know so much laws because we didn't have light in my village growing up. We didn't have electricity. So the few houses that had, a generator, we go there once in a while on Sunday evenings to go watch television. And then, as children, they will tell us when they are tired of us being there, and then you have to go. So I think it was just simple. For what we know, that it was just simple. And then we only got to know that it was not so fun when you travel to Lagos for holidays. You see electricity, you see noodles, you see some kind of food you've not seen in the village, and you know that you're missing out in the village. Yeah, Lagos was like our London, our US back then. So whenever you're preparing for the third term holidays, you're already calling your aunties and your uncles and your older siblings, asking them who would accommodate you or who would invite you for the long-term holiday. And then when you come back from holiday, it feels like you've gone to the US for like 10 years. You have to brag to your friends how you saw fine cars, fine houses, eat fried rice, this was not in the village. So that was basically it as a child. For me, life was just when I mean simple, not easy. It was simple because we just did the basic things as children growing up while going to farm to like sustain our like means of livelihood, like going to paying school fees and so on and so forth.
I mean, I think these days we miss all of those things because, playing with your peers, doing all of those things, it's fun. These days we don't have all of those things again. And I think it's really affecting, the growth of most of our young ones that are growing these days. Those days, you can relate with humans. Now it's all about phone. It's all about. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it might not be easy, but I know you missed it as you. We all missed our childhood days and all of that. So, looking at how you grew up, the environment you grew up in, how were you able to live in that rural area and still get inspired to follow the path of law? What was your why?
Well, I think as a child, like we didn't really have so much people to like look up to or maybe inspire us. We only had uncles who had cars, and then when they come to the village in December, you ask them, "How do you buy your own car when you grow up?" And like, "Oh, education, education." Like for them and for us, the only pathway to maybe own a car as a child was to go to school, go to university, and then watch Nollywood movies, where you go to school, graduate, go to NYSC, get a good job, buy a car. So we all saw that education was just the only path to having money and maybe buying cars for our parents and living a good or comfortable or decent life. So for us then it was like our peers, no, our uncles, our relatives, our neighbors who lived in townships. Like I said, I was in a village, so township might be Asaba or Nicha or Oka or let's say even Ibadan. These are townships for us. So seeing them come back every year with their cars, and then you want to own a car, but you're so small, and you ask them like, how do you own one? They tell you keep reading and keep studying hard. And well, for me, when it comes to like what inspired me to study law, I was in seminary. So I liked government back then very well. I liked government so much. So people said I argued a lot, which I don't think is true. And like, oh, you're going to be a good lawyer and all that. But maybe when I was writing JAMB, I was not good at mathematics. So the first course I saw that didn't have mathematics was law. And I was like, okay, since I'm already good in government, okay, I'll go with law. And here I am.
Wow. Initially, you mentioned how it was hard, how it was, your background was simple, but it was not easy. It was hard. Because I'm also aware how hard it can be for parents in Nigeria to afford their children's education. So when you think about your time in the university and later in the law school, how would you describe that chapter of your life and how were you able to fund your way throughout your education?
You know, I think why people say they wish they go back to their younger days when they were in school and had fun. I, for one, I never wish to go back to those days.
Mm.
I don't wish to go back to those days because
Why?
it's not something I read. It was fun. We're growing up, but when you look at the hardships, like I think when I was in uni, I could remember when I was in uni. There are days where I'll go to class in the morning. I'll eat okpa. I don't know okpa. It's like a local food in the east. You eat okpa and bread, and you drink water. And then when class is finished by 2 p.m., people are going back home. You don't go back because what are you going to do? No food to eat, so you're forced to stay back and read and sleep. And then when you go home by 8, 9, 10 p.m., you have no choice than to sleep. So these were like tough times growing up in the uni. The only consolation we had then was, of course, getting good grades. That was like my only consolation. So
Mm.
law school was also the same thing. Yeah, I went through law school through the help of my late uncle and my friend Tochukwu Bai, who actually made sure I was eating 2 times a day every day. He made sure he was buying me food and so on and so forth. So when I don't wish to go back to those days, they were fun. Yeah, I met great people then, but like the actual life of going passing through the university and passing through the law school, like the difficulties actually feeding. I'll say feeding. I don't know if you've not if you've not thought about what you eat for your next meal, you've seen life like when you eat in the morning and you're not sure what you eat in the afternoon or at night. Yeah, so that's, I don't wish or I don't look forward or I don't even think of going back to those days. And I've never wished it, I've never missed it. Just like where I'm currently, I don't want to go back to those days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the reason why some of this conversation is very important is for us to, we want to tie the dot between the grass to grace story, so that there are people that are also in that situation now where it's tough for them, and when they see people like you, like people that are doing exploits in their industries, they need to understand that it all started from somewhere, and that's why we're trying to connect the dots. So that's why we always want to hear everybody's perspective of how it was growing up. My own growth growing up was also was very tough, that I had to walk, I have to do all of those things. Those stories are there, not, it's an experience that build our capacity to get to this point. And because when we look back, we're only thinking about how can we now go back to support those that are behind, that are also going through that situation. So we might not be able to even support them physically, but our journey can inspire them to also get into the point they want to get to. So that's the reason why these conversations are always very important. So as you mentioned, you said you studied law. Why law? Why not any other course? Like, how did you get into law before we move into sport law? So I really want to understand why was that like an experience or situation that happened? Because I know that most of the people, I've heard a lot of people that studied law, and they would say it was because their parents was maltreated, or they saw somebody was not, properly was harassed, and they felt like, I'm going to stand for that person. When I grew up, I'm going to study law so I can protect the right of people. So why law? Why not biochemistry? Why not accountants? Is it because you don't just, because if you say you don't like calculation, there are other courses that doesn't have to do with calculation, you know? And so aside from law, so why law? Why not something else? What was
So
what experience around it that made you choose that course?
okay, I think Mr. Pius Ndubuokwu of blessed memory, he was my government teacher. So when I got to senior secondary school SS1, we were namesakes, and then I was taking government classes, and I think I was doing pretty well in government. I think I was the best in government in my class. I don't know, for 3 years. And then Mr. Bani had, I think, 4 or 5 kids who were lawyers. And I remember Pius is Pius. So it was like he would love me to be like one of his kids who are lawyers, that I'll make so much money as a lawyer.
The money, I get it. Hey, go.
So so that was it. And then I was also pretty good in literature. So it was either the priesthood for me or law, priesthood or law for me. So when I wrote my jam, and as I said, of course, I don't like calculations, but this man, I already saw his kids are lawyers, and he tells me good stuff about them, the quality of life they lead. Yeah. So like he was like I looked up to him as my mentor, and it was like he looked forward to me becoming a lawyer one day, and so on and so. Like I had that subconsciousness from him, like, oh, if my government teacher could have 4 or 5 kids who are lawyers, then it means that something must be right about law. So aside from not liking calculation, when I was filling my jam form, immediately I saw law, there was no maths. I was like, okay, this makes sense. So let me just go there, and that was how I got in there.
Okay, great, great. It's good to understand and, be able to know your own inspiration towards going or delving into that course. And thank you for sharing that. So now you're studying sport law. Now you now later transition into sport law, because I know corporate law is quite different from, sport law and every other laws out there, right? So tell me about how the transition came about, how you come about the transition, and did you grow up around sports? What first sparked your interest in sport and ultimately led you towards a career in sport law rather than a traditional legal career?
Okay, so when it comes to sports law, I think my first real contact with sports and law, not sports law, sports and law, was
Okay.
Amobi Zako,
Mm,
the current GM of Rangers International. I was in school then, because I got into school exactly the year he left, so I didn't meet him in school. He was my senior with about 5 or 6 classes. So I think we had a sports week then in school, and I was the chairman of the sports week in my faculty of law then, and I had won table tennis competition. So we invited him to come, encourage students, and give the prizes. So when that movie came around, he was the team manager of Rangers then,
mhm.
2016. He was so young, and he had a white Mercedes Benz. Like, oh my god, this guy's not practicing law, and he's driving the Mercedes Benz. So that movie told us something. That movie like, there's money in law. There was money in sports. There are many aspects of sports. You can be a sports lawyer, you can be a sports administrator, you can be sports director. So that was my first experience, first encounter with sports law. Because all my life, my goal was like finish school, work in a corporate environment, earn 300,000 a month or 400, and move on. That was my N400, and after like 1 2 years, marry. After about have kids, just simple life planned out like a traditional Nigerian guy who's in university. But that movie came and gave us a perspective. And
Wow.
after that, I started thinking, like, if Amobi can drive a Mercedes Benz, he was so young. I think he was the youngest team manager in Africa at then. And then when he also won the league, he was the youngest team manager to have won the league in Africa, Nigeria. I don't know about, I think maybe Africa too, because he was pretty young then. So that movie was the first real encounter I had about sports and law. I don't mean sports law. That's a lawyer who's in sports. I don't know if it makes sense. I'm not
Yes.
saying sports law, sports and law. He was a lawyer who was a team manager. So I was like, if you can blend in there, then there should be opportunities for other persons to come in. So when I was called to bar 2018, I was really confused, but I knew one thing for sure. I didn't want a conventional practice of law, of going to court or I don't know, but I just knew that I was not cut out for that. So I met a couple of my friends and we were like, okay, we'll try and do sports event organization. So we're going to start hosting marathons, athletics games, and so on and so forth. But that required serious funding. So my late uncle then would tell me, this thing you're planning is why not like look at the legal aspect of it? I was like, bros, there's no money there. There's nobody to mentor me. So it was like just start small and all that. So I met my friend, my John Nonna then, who was in Aluka Ibode. I met him in Lagos. We shared similar dream. He had a great job, and it was like, Pius, this is something we can do. And Rash, he had to resign from a job. That was one of the most highly sought after job in Nigeria. So then even up to now, Aluka Ibode, he had to resign, and we went to form our own sports law firm. We're very young, inexperienced, and here we are. Here we are. I think here we are.
Wow, 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 wow. That is really inspiring. And referencing uh, Barrister Amubi is going to be one of my guests actually on our podcast. We're just waiting for time to bring him on. And to be honest, I've heard really great and amazing thing about him, and he's still doing it. And he's also one of those people that inspires me when it comes to the the football landscape ecosystem in Africa as a whole, because it's, when I see the way he does things with excellence, when I see the way it comes outside to articulate his thought, it doesn't have all this eloquence, this spicy English, and this quiz English, whatever. But you would know that the content that he carries is huge. And I also inspires me a lot about him is it made me realize that, when you go to school, you're supposed to use what you've learned in the school or whatever level of knowledge you've gathered for the number of years you've been in that academic sector. You're supposed to use it to change the system, not to compromise, not to conform with the system, rather. And it's just huge to see somebody, went to do his FIFA masters and all of that, still come back to Nigeria and say, I want to change the landscape of African football. You would have chosen something else. You might have done, a lot of other things you could have done in Europe. But to be honest, it inspires me. And I've heard a lot of positive things from even players that it doesn't know that how much it impacted their life, taking some legal actions on behalf of players for free. That is really huge. And you could also see what he's doing with Rangers International. Like, it's just amazing. I know that he's going to see this episode, and I'm also going to, we will talk anyways. But thank you for referencing it. And it's just amazing. And it just shows me how much he has inspired, how much he keeps inspiring, and he will keep inspiring, the younger generation. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. So now, when you reflect on your journey now, what qualities from your journey do you think prepared you early for this career path?
Rush, I'll say this when I reflect, it's just very simple. You see, resilience, patience, and don't I never say taking no for an answer. I'll say, for example, when we started our practice 6 years ago, this is going to be very interesting, Rash. We got clients who were paying us 200,000 a year as their lawyers, 200,000 a year to represent them, clubs as their lawyers. And yesterday, I was one of my biggest clients. I think it's one of the biggest sports investors in Africa. And I told him, sir, I remember when I met you and I told you I work for you for 1 year for free. And then if you're satisfied with my service, you can bring me on board. And I was like, yes. And I told you, are you sure you can do it for free? Not after 1 month, you will run away. Or after 2 months, when you start seeing, you're like, oh, you want to be paid. I was like, no, sir, I would do that. And yeah, it was like, and you went 1 year and you did it. And here we are. You're like our lawyer, of course, and that's beyond limits, Remo Stars. I'm their lawyer. So so that was how I got to meet them. So I think it's about resilience, never taking no for an answer. Because I know I had called the club back then, and the club was like, what's your experience? Do you think you can represent us? What do you know? What are your achievements? What are your social proofs to show that you're a sports lawyer? So like some people take offense in these things and never call them back. But for someone like me, I believe if you tell me that I'm not high enough to talk with you or sit with you, my goal is to go and look for a way to like buy a bigger ladder or build a bigger ladder to climb up to that stage where I can meet with you, and then we can now talk. And if my ladder is not big enough, I go back to the stage one and I'll try to elongate it or stretch it further. So I never be like, so I don't take no for an answer. And I think it's about resilience, patience, and then the passion. So for me, it was not about the money. The money is very important. Because if it was about the money, I would have left the industry since 2021 or 2020 because it was very terrible. Imagine working for a year, you make less than 700, 600 USD as a lawyer. That was really, really very poor. When my mates were earning times 10 of that a month. So, but for me, it was about I had passion for sports. I played basketball, small. I played football. That's my clips. I still play football till date. Yeah, standing for, I still play football. So I had passion for it. But for me, it was like, no was not an answer for me. And then I felt I had gone way too far that, Omo, what can I, sorry for using that word, Omo, like,
No,
what
no,
can I
no. Go
lose?
ahead. Express
Yeah,
yourself. It's
yeah.
communication. Express yourself.
What more can I lose? Like, come on, I've been there. I grew up in a village with no expectations. So what would be worse than growing up in that village that without light? So I just told myself, well, this is it, and we're going to go to the end of the road. I told my friends then, time will come when I will represent some players in Super Eagles, Super Falcons, and they're like, you're joking, man, you're joking, and yeah. And today I have a player in the Canadian National League who's my client. So you see, yeah, we're living the dream. So it's about pushing. I kept pushing, and then I knew what I wanted. And first of all, the passion was there. Money is very important, but to prove yourself in the industry, then you can't come in where people don't even know you and start asking them that they should pay you money. So it was more of like I had to like prove myself to people like, oh, I'm competent, I'm an expert in this field, and then I had to gain their trust and confidence. And unless you tell me outrightly, it will never work. In fact, I don't even take that word. It will never work unless you maybe
Hmm.
block my phone. I keep coming back. I will keep coming back to you and coming back to you and coming back to you.
Well,
So that's it. That's what keeps me pushing in the industry.
wow, those are great qualities, honestly. And one that stood out more for me is never take no for an answer. Say, no, no, like go back, just stay persistent, and over
Yep.
time it would work. I know there's a particular Bible verse for it, like what I would put it when it's the time, but yeah, it's huge. Just never take no for an answer and just keep moving, keep pushing, and over time it will work. I think, yeah, there was a story like that in the Bible now when I think there was a particular woman came to Jesus, or she came there the first time, she came to ask for a request the other time, she came again. Jesus was like, see, give this girl this thing. She will wear me out with so much request. Just let her go. And it just showed the power of persistence, the power of never taking no for an answer, the
Yeah.
power of
True.
just, keep digging deep. Over time, you get what you want. So, yeah, let's talk about some of the challenges and setbacks that you face. So, looking at your journey so far, what were your earliest struggles when trying to enter into the sports field, into the sport law field? And what were the hardest ethical dilemma you've ever tried to manage in your career? Because we've had issues like lawyers are always liars. Lawyers, you cannot, because of there's just a lot of stories around lawyers sometimes. So what were the hardest ethical dilemma that you've had to manage in your sport career, and the struggles you've been able to deal with in the sport law field?
Well, my earliest struggles. It was very easy. You call a club that you want to represent them, and they'll tell you, "Oh, we have a lawyer," and they don't have a lawyer, or they
Hmm.
will tell you, "We don't need your services," or "We don't have a case," because people believe that lawyers are only meant for cases. That when we have a case, we'll call you, and then you have people who are offering you, "Come work for us. The future is bright." If I work,
Hmm.
if future is bright, how would I buy data to be online and chat with you? How would I be able to buy airtime to call you? How
Hmm.
would I even be able to like buy chargers or call to charge my phone? So this is very discouraging. And as I said earlier, I owe a lot to my friend Tochku, because when those times were happening, I would have quitted. Like, that was the truth. He
Hmm.
told me no. I'll be giving you stipend every month to make up for these things. So those things, it kept me going. So even when we got clients who were not willing to pay, we had to take them on board, trying to show them that we can do these things correctly, and we could represent them. And then with time, they saw the value. So for me, it was about like, that was my earliest struggle. And I think it's not my friend Tochku back then, I would have left, because, as I said earlier, of course, I had a passion. It wasn't about the money, but you needed to stay afloat. You needed data. You needed you need to buy power bank. You need to buy cords for your phone. You need those basic things to stay afloat in the industry. So this was like the biggest challenge I had back then. Then, whether I've ever doubted that sports law was a viable part in Nigeria or Africa, no, I've never doubted that. I've never doubted that. I've never doubted that. I always saw the opportunity, but I need to take a lot of hard work, perseverance, maybe grace and favor, because you have to find favor in the presence of those what they call it,
The-
clients, to be clients, for them to like get you on board because there are other lawyers back then who are also doing what you're doing, even though they're not Nigerians. So that favor to like back then, my friend always tell me, Pius, how do you call a client so easily and they trust you with sensitive details of their job? I was like, well, it was like, maybe you found favor before this client. I was like, yeah, maybe. You know, the Bible said David found favor before God. You know, maybe I found favor before
Mm-hmm.
client. So favor was very,
Mm-hmm.
I think favor was a critical factor then because I had a particular client who knew I was an upcoming lawyer. We made so much mistakes, but he still stuck with us. Like the client stuck with us. His name is Mr. Eugene Remionkale, the president of Sunset Football Club. Like Eugene literally grew with with my career. He grew with our profession. He saw us make mistakes. He saw us doubt ourselves. At the point, Eugene would send us materials to read. Hey, Pius, I saw this material. I think it might help you. It's not a lawyer. And then I would just say, thank you, sir. And I'll read up those things. So I've never doubted the opportunities in sports law, but I've had my own struggles. But I think favor from God and then having these men favor you, like even in your weaknesses and your limitations, they still choose to
Wow.
stick by you or go with you. Then how did I deal with low visibility or recognition? Well, I didn't really care. I started coming online like last year. I didn't really care about recognition and visibility. My job was do your thing. I think prior to last year, we've gotten over 190, 180 judgments before FIFA, tribunal, CAS, and other bodies. But I didn't really care. We don't post all those things online because I just felt I don't really care. As long as the clients keep, what do you call it, telling each other, oh, this is our lawyer. But at a point, there were jobs we couldn't get because people didn't know you. And you have to literally start telling them, oh, I did this, I did that. Like, for example, I tell people when Amuneke had issue with the Tanzania Football Federation 2021, I had to chat him on WhatsApp. I was like, hey, sir, I'm a sports lawyer. I can represent you. And I was quite surprised he replied me. And it was like, are you sure about this? I was like, sure. He gave me power of attorney, gave me his contract, and in less than 3 4 months, I got judgment for him and the case was closed. So we really had our limitations then our restrictions because you have to like start telling people what you've done as opposed to right now. I still have to tell people what I have done, but at least some of the works we've done are out there to speak for
Okay.
us. Are out there to speak for us. So it was a big issue because people who don't trust us or they don't even know what you've done. Of course, and you don't blame them because sports law is not big in Nigeria or Africa as at back then. So there's no proof of what you've done. So why would they trust you with their jobs? So it had limitations, and of course, but I think for now we're still facing that limitation issues, but it's not like what it used to be 3 4 years ago. I always say this. Uh Ethics and law. I have my personal morals. I have my personal morals, and law is different. Some things might be legal, but they're not ethically correct. Ethics and law, they are two different things. So I think one should be when I handle the case, and like I knew that this player had a proper cause of action, that he was being cheated, but his signature has been forged,
Hmm.
and I could forge back that same signature and win the case.
Hmm.
Like right now, of course, if I do this wrong, it will bring a greater good. But I have to tell the player, well, legally this is wrong, ethically this is wrong. So we had to let go the case. I felt bad. I felt very bad. I wish I had no principles. Because I wish if I didn't have principles, like if I had no ethics, I would have maybe found a way to maybe have gotten the player like you know very well that this player is being wronged. And the only way to get him justice is to commit a wrong.
Hmm.
So that means achieving a right cause or a just cause through a wrong means. But these were like contrary to the ethics I stood for. So yeah, it was very difficult, and I had to call over 20 different lawyers I knew back then. They were like, do what you think is best for you and your clients. And I had to make a tough call. We lost the case, but what can you do?
That's interesting because all of what you explained, this I picked three very valid and vital points. Because when it comes to the challenges and the setback, your earliest struggles, you mentioned something very important. You said you have a friend who was there for you. And, which is a cause for we surrounding ourselves with the right people, we having the right friends who believe in our visions, who builds us, who support our visions, and they always align with our vision. Because imagine that moment when you wanted to give up and there's nobody there for you. That friend, it's not a mother, it's not a father, it's not even a brother, it's not your blood, whatever. It's just always very good that you have, somebody around you that are there. I mean, that most of the time it's God sent, and it's always God that would always bring those kind of people around you. So, because when I was studying my Bible lately, I read a place in the Bible, and the inspiration that came to my mind was for every vision that we all carry, for every vision that we have, there is always somebody to midwife it with us. It's not necessarily, so this person might not be your father, mother, or brother. It might be your coach, it might be your mentor, it might be your friend, and all of that. So it's very important that we discover them and God, connect us together so that those people can help us bring those visions, those ideas into life. Another very important key point you also mentioned is your grace. You mentioned how you people messed up with, because you're very young and there are a lot of mistakes that you guys are just learning through the job. And it takes people that it takes God's grace to mess up people's job and still tell you, don't worry, I give you the opportunities to learn on that job. And don't worry, just keep learning and keep growing. And as you mentioned, there's always just made us understand that there's always a God factor, which is the core part of this our conversation, because we want to let people understand that you come to the realization of knowing that you can't do all of these things alone. You acknowledge that there is a God factor that is also helping you, through the journey and through all that you're doing. And that's what we always want our generation to understand. That you might be skillful, you might be talented, you might have everything, that you might be knowledgeable, you might be full of wisdom. But there's a God factor, there's a grace factor, there's a favor factor. And as the Bible also said too, that in the book of Luke chapter 2 verse 54, it says, and Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and with men. And finally, another part, on visibility aspect, something very key that I picked from you. You people didn't have opportunities of having, being able to pitch yourself to clients. So you just taught me here that for every person, anybody in any field, any industry, you need to brand yourself, you need to project yourself, because people only trust what they can see. So people can only invest in what they can see. So I'm just trying to, paraphrase the lesson that I'm able to learn from what you said. And those are very powerful. And I'm pretty sure that it is very helpful for anyone who will stumble on this episode. So yeah, let's move quickly. So in your experience, what would you say are the challenges you faced while representing clients in sport? Because I understand that dealing with athletes is really straightforward and can present unique difficulties.
Well, I think one of our biggest challenge would be half truth. Half truth. The athletes they come and brief you, they tell you part of the story. Oh, with this, that happened, this one happened, that one did not happen. And you're filled with anger and rage. You want to object, like, oh, why would they treat an athlete or a player this way? Oh, this is wrong. I will sue them. We'll make them suffer. We'll make them pay. And then you take up the journey. Along the line, you start seeing that your clients have signed some documents contrary to the cases you're handling, or they've made some concessions, or they've done some acts that even triggered the action from the club, or vice versa. So I think our biggest challenge representing these athletes is half truth. Not all of them, some of them half truth. They tell you to do A, and they've done B, C, which will affect the A they've instructed you to do. So I think that's our biggest challenge. Though we've had so many who are very helpful. They tell you A and it's A, but you have someone who told you he's not been paid for 4 months, and you go to FIFA, he's been paid for 2 months. It's just 2 months, and you're there arguing 4 months. Nothing that he has been paid for 2 months, and he or she will tell you, "Oh, I forgot that I've been paid." How do you forget? How do you
Wow.
forget you've been paid? So, yeah, I think that's our biggest challenge. That's our biggest challenge, and then the pressure they mount on us, like as attorneys. Oh, why is our case? Why are the cases not progressing so fast? And they forget that we're just lawyers. We have the administrative body, FIFA or CAS, we have the secretariat who process the claim, submit to judges or whatsoever. So the pressure is something else. Like a player calls you today, you tell him we're expecting an update next week. Tells you thank you, sir. He calls you tomorrow morning. Any update? Like, well, we just spoke yesterday. Say, oh, sorry, I forgot. He gives you two days. He comes back again. Any update? At times I tell them, if there's an update, I'll call you. You don't have to call me. You get tired, but you don't blame them. It's their like, so the pressure and then the half truth. Like, I just believe that no matter what, even if you're wrong, even if you've done something that you think is against your case, maybe tell your attorney. You might be able to find a way to wriggle you out of that mess. Not like, oh, a player tells you, oh, I forgot I signed that document. I forgot I signed it. Like, why how do you forget these things? Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's basically one of our biggest challenges, and yeah, I think that's it.
Wow.
Or maybe when you work for some clients and then after working for them they get paid, you don't start chasing them for your own payments. That's the biggest challenge. That's the biggest of it all. When you work for an athlete or a club and they get paid, and then you have to now start begging them to pay you your own professional fees. Very sad, but something we face every day. We can't avoid this.
So you mean this things you mentioned from half truth, pressure from clients, and also you chasing them from or paying your professional fees, that these things are not avoidable. Is there a way that you can avoid it? Is there a way to control it?
Well, the pressure, you can't avoid the pressure. Even I will not blame them, even myself as a human being. If you tell me you would send me money next week without a date, I'll pressure you on Monday. And if you tell me, oh, the week is not yet over, I'll call you on Tuesday because this is still the week. So it's just human. It's just human anxiety and all that. And remember, you're an athlete yourself, you're a player. So imagine when the club has owed you for 4 or 5 months and you don't have any other means of livelihood or survival. And then you have a case before them against them at FIFA or CAS. You'll be anxious because for every day that counts, you're staying without employment. Let's say the window is closed. Like, this is your only means of survival or livelihood. You are under intense pressure. You have to sort out family, yourself, relations, commitment, and so on. So I understand that pressure. So when they call us, we'll try to be kind to them. We'll try our best to call FIFA. Well, whenever there's an update, we would call you. But you can't tell them to stop pressuring you because they're equally anxious. That's it. So you can't be avoided. They have
Wow.
truth. They have truth. I don't know. You cannot force somebody to tell you what he or she doesn't want to tell you. So we keep praying that they will come straightforward. Then for us as lawyers, I would say we're the most uh vulnerable set of persons when it comes to professionalism because you fight for a client, you represent a client, the client gets paid, and then the client refuses to pay you. You have to now come from the scratch to start going to a regular course that will take 3 4 years. So how do you prevent these things? You cannot push the court. So yeah, these things are not there are things we cannot avoid in life, but we just pray to avoid. We pray to avoid them. You see, I think Bible says, lead us not into temptation." So yeah,
Mhm.
these temptations will come. In fact, you look at the Bible when Jesus was on the boat, the storm came. The storm came, but he
Mhm.
was able to say, "Peace be still." So imagine if the storm could come. So we
Mhm.
just pray that when they owe us, we'll find ways to get our money from them. But to say if
Mhm.
can you prevent it, ha, and I don't think it's possible. It's not possible.
I mean, it's just good to know how this could be avoidable so that we can keep educating people, because also so you people can do your job to the best of your ability for them, and so they can, because when clients are educated or enlightened on this aspect, they understand, they would know, how you people, there will always be a balance, and you people will understand how to manage the whole situation properly, because if players, why shouldn't I tell you after when you want me to back you up? Like, how do you want me to back you up without telling me the truth? You know what I mean? So I'm just fighting for you based on, and that happens a lot, even in the female football environment and the sport environment. You're like fighting for one player, but meanwhile, players have done a lot of things that they want to do behind, and they won't tell you those parts until you now get to the root of the matter. You're like, you now look stupid, like, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me that? But yeah, it's just very good that we both align, both the client and both the legal practitioner align, and we can, because in the end, it's a win. We're here to help each other. You want to help them. So no, even if you're trying to help the client. So if you're trying to help them, they should also, try to do their best to, yeah, provide the truth, limit the pressure a little bit on the legal practitioner, and when you get your money, pay them. People have done their job. Pay, for God's sake. I'm just advocating for you people. So when you get your money, Mr. Pius, remember Mommy Gio, according to you. Remember my 1%, just 1%. Thank you. So now let's move into your professional part and your achievement. You founded PCN Sportiva LP, a sport law firm. Can you share the story behind its creation and what inspired you to start your own firm? And for our listeners who might not be familiar with you, Can you walk us through what the firm is all about?
Okay, so before PCN, as I said earlier, we had a partnership for over 4 years with my friends for the leather LP. It was a sports law firm. But in life, she said change is constant. Yeah, we all moved on with life. I moved on to the United States. One moved on to Europe. Other one found another hobby, that stuff. So I think it became impracticable or important, like for us to continue working together because of those circumstances, time zone. I'm 6, 7 hours behind. So you don't expect me to work with you that you don't expect me to be awake by 3, 4 a.m. my US time. So we all had to just go our separate paths and then move on. So I think that I had to establish my own law firm, which I own solely, not in partnership with my other partners.
Mhm.
PCN is my three names combined. Sha. If you don't know, PCN is my three names combined. So I
Okay.
just use that as PCN Sportiva LP. So I think it's basically what we've been doing for the past 5, 6 years, which is I think the foundation is on contracts and disciplinary sanctions, representing athletes, players, clubs, yeah, brands, yeah, on like the basics, the fundamentals of contracts, reviewing, drafting, advising. And then when there are disputes, of course, that's when people think we should be involved. Most people think we should be involved in disputes. Yeah, handling disputes for them and then helping our clients with brand deals, endorsements, and so on and so forth. So for the PCN Sportiva, for my own area of practice, I only focus on football and basketball. Though we have associates in my firm who do esports, that's e-gaming and so on and so forth. But for me alone, I just focus on football and basketball, not NBA in the US, FIBA, the global basketball. That's what I focus on. So I think that was just it. So I think that like PCN was not just established like from nowhere. I already worked in this space. So it was just me going like my own personal brand, my own identity. And so that was why I established PCN.
Wow, great. So for our listeners, because most of them are, some of them are athletes, and if you want to be represented in, if you have any case, any disciplinary sanctions,
No, no, no,
contract,
no, 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 not cases. That's what I'm saying. That's the wrong notion.
okay, not case, okay,
No,
contract, whatever.
yeah, we should be preventive. We should be preventive, not
Okay,
not reactive.
okay. So when you say preventive, not reactive, can you? What does that mean?
So I'll give as an example. There's a player, it's an athlete. I won't give his name or where he plays. He pays us 30, he pays us €30 every month for being his lawyers. €30 every month. I don't know. And I think since he got us on board, that called me. I was like, "Oh, thank you so much. Since you got on board, the club they've been behaving well. They've not threatened the boy. They've treated him so well because yeah, if you take any action against the boy, we ask the boy to give us evidence and we'll write the club. So the goal is to avoid disputes. In fact, dispute should be the ultimate ratio. It should be the last resort, like going to FIFA or going to CAS. That should be our last resort. If we can settle and mediate, that should be the most important thing. Like as we are humans, so conflicts are bound to arise, either from misunderstanding, misinterpretations, or deliberate harm or breaches. So our goal is to prevent these things from happening. But if it's now like we cannot avoid it, of course, with all joy we would take up the case and go on. So I think yeah, so don't tell them to hire me for cases. They should. Yeah, of course. When you, yeah, of course, there are instances where you can't even mediate, where the other party will just commit a breach totally, and the only remedy you have is to take up an action. Of course, that's welcome, but the goal is to have like a health insurance scheme where whether you're sick or not, this thing is just there, so you can just
That's great. We'll talk about that one in a few minutes. So, looking at your organization, what gap in the sport law world were you hoping to fill when you established PCN Sportiva LP? And
yeah.
how do you ensure that your firm continues to address the evolving needs of athletes and sport organizations?
Yeah, so I'll start with the last part of it. How do we ensure that we continue to like address those needs? Is constant reading, seminars, education, and mentorship. I'm a big fan of mentorship. Not mentoring I mentor my guys, my associates, but I actually have my own mentors whom like last few days, one of them sent me a judgment to go read up. I was like, Pius, note these judgments. So mentorship and self-education is very important, seminars and so on. So they keep you abreast of like trending and current legal issues and legal things happening in the legal landscape or industry. So with this, you're able to like keep yourself updated about how to represent your athletes. And then the gap we hope to fill or we are filling is very simple. A player should not sign a contract that is self-injurious. Don't go and sign a contract that says if you get injured, you will not get paid your salary. Or for the female players, if you get pregnant, you terminate your contract. Even if they do,
Get
these are
there.
very these are very bad clauses which you can challenge, or you got pregnant for your husband, or you want to do IVF with us, or even if you want to adopt, anyone you want to do, like you should be protected under the regulations. So we make sure that these rights are protected. Or even when you go on a maternity leave, that you are paid what you should be paid, two-thirds of your salary. And even when you come back after maternity leave, that the club absorbs you back into the team. So our goal is to make sure that these vacancies, or like we fill in this gap for these athletes. And then for athletes whom after playing for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, the club tells them, oh, sign a mutual release letter with us. You go, we don't pay you a dime and you move on with your career. Our goal is to tell these athletes, no, as long as you've worked, under the Swiss Code of Obligations, the right to earn your livelihood is same. It's like right to salary is a mandatory. It's an obligation that has a mandatory character. Like once you've worked, you must be paid. So you cannot waive what you have worked for. It is immoral because it will be akin to asking you to work for free, which I believe you would not have done if they had told you to come and play for free. So why after playing 10 months, tell you to sign and waive all your entitlements? Even when you sign them, the law says, oh, this is null and void, this is invalid, and so on and so forth. Or maybe when the club tells you we don't want you anymore, or they tell you to train alone, or train with the junior team, or use the personal gym alone, like all these abusive behaviors towards players, or the club turns off your water, WC, disconnects your Wi-Fi, pours water into your room just to force you to terminate your contract. Yeah, so our goal is to make sure that like address these breaches and these infringements in football and basketball and other sports of it like. But these are the two I handle. So
Wow. Wow. So all of these experiences you just listed are some of the experiences that some of your clients has faced. Like
yeah.
club trying to push players out of their club, and they're pouring water, disconnecting Wi-Fi's, and all of this is actually it's worrying to me, but I'm grateful to God that we don't have to go through some of these things. But I also feel pity for all of these players that go through some of those things. And we'll get back to this conversation, like we'll dive deeper into this conversation because it's also a very important subjects matter. So before I move into FLAM, because I know FLAM is also another huge event of yours, but let's go into governance, sport law governance, and grassroots development. So, which part of sport law do you find yourself drawn to most? Is it contract dispute? Is it contract dispute resolution or governance? And what is
Well,
your assessment of current governance in Nigeria or current sports governance in Nigeria? Let's bridge it.
I think my focus is on contracts, dispute resolution, and athlete advisory. Yeah, governance, great. Yeah, I advise on governance, the regulations, the frameworks. Yeah, but I'm not so much into there. Yeah, for sports governance in Nigeria, I would say we are not yet there, but we're getting there. I think that's how we summarize it. We're not yet there, we're getting there. But with the likes of people like Amobi, who's gone far and wide, FIFA Masters, UEFA, CFM, is on the FIFA Integrity Board, FIFA Pro Bono Council, Beverly Abakoba, who's a FIFA recognized mediator. I think we'll get there in governance, but I just think we're still a work in progress. We're still a bit far, and we'll get there. So I'm not an expert to speak on that area. Maybe will be a better expert to speak on sports governance in Nigeria. But I just know that we're not there. We're not there.
Okay, let me then reserve that question for him when we bring him home. When we bring him on. Because I would have loved for us to elaborate more when you say we're not there. Then where are we now, and where are we supposed to go to? So where are we supposed to get to? So we'll be able to measure our growth of where we are now and where we're going to. Because But if it's something you can answer, let's go ahead and talk about it. But if not, we'll leave. Mr. Mobi, if you see this, if you see this episode, we're reserving this question for you because you need to do justice on it for us.
No, when talk about sports governance, like we're referring to the system, the rules, institution, decision making structures that control how sports are administered in Nigeria. So look at this definition. I said the systems, the rules, the institutions, and decision making structures that control how sports is administered, regulated, and held accountable. So if you look at this definition, do you think we are there? If you look at this, I just defined it for you like these four elements I pulled out now. Do you think we are there? I don't think we're not yet there. So,
Okay. We will get there. We will get with you people's help and your experience, we will get there. So, from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges facing sport governance in Nigeria and across Africa? And what do you think could be done to address them?
so I think political interference, when you see the government interfering in how sport is being managed, lack of transparency. Of course, we see people talk about decision-making processes, elections, like some federations. We don't even know how they do their elections. We just know that these guys are existing. Like, when I heard about the federation in Nigeria, and I was like, do we have such federation? So, lack of transparency, then poor dispute resolution culture, like in Nigeria, like FIFA has said that every member federation should try and domesticate the ROC. That's so we can have the NDROC. The NFF is doing a whole lot because I was in Abuja last week and I saw that the player status committee start for straight 4 or 5 days from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day trying to resolve disputes against clubs and against players and against coaches. And then I also think another issue we have is limited athlete representation. As I said, athletes don't want to pay lawyers. They don't want to pay lawyers a dime. No, they don't want to pay lawyers. So they are not properly represented. How then if that's one part of it, then you say athletes they are really included in the governance decisions that affect them. So when you're constituting player status committee, you have you have a representative of the athletes of the players, you have a representative of the club, and like there's a minimum required criteria to have a balanced body that you can say represents an athlete. You cannot have club administrators and for club owners or federation administrators in a committee where athletes' welfare are to be discussed. You must have an athlete, someone who's been an athlete before or who's an athlete to be in that committee because he or she understands the plight of other athletes. So I think limited athlete representation is a big issue affecting governance. Then weak enforcement of rules. You see, the issue of Africa or Nigeria is not lack of laws. We have all these laws, but our issue is enforcement. Are they enforceable? You understand? Like, then the sanctions, are the sanctions provided are they being applied correctly? Of course, you know the answer yourself. So we have the robust legal system, but we don't have a very robust enforcement mechanism to make sure that these rules are being enforced. And then when you have this poor governance, you have issue of contract exploitation, unpaid salaries, arbitral sanctions, loss of investor confidence, of course. When you have no proper governance, nobody wants to invest in the ecosystem or the sports ecosystem in Nigeria and Africa. And then of course, when you have political interference, you have FIFA sanctions and suspensions. But when we get some of these things right, you see stability, investor trust, player protection, and sustainable grassroots development in football.
Wow. I mean, that's the end goal if we're able to get it right. So the question will now be how do we get it right? How can we address them? How can these be addressed?
Yeah. So as I said earlier, we are not in shortage of these laws and regulations. We just don't have we don't have a robust enforcement mechanism. So if our existing laws can be enforced appropriately, we should get closer. We might not get to be there 100%, but we should be somewhere closer, a bit closer.
Okay, we'll be praying. We would stand in the gap to pray. Why they put in the work so everything can complement each other. So you've worked extensively on training, compensation, and solidarity payment for grassroots for grassroots football. Why do you think these are so important for football development in Nigeria and across Africa? And before you talk about the importance, for somebody who doesn't understand what training compensation is and what solidarity payment is, can you just simplify it for us?
So to ensure that the talent pipeline does not dry up, let me use layman's term, that the pipeline does not dry up or the well of producing talent does not dry up. FIFA ensures that these guys who are the lowest ebb of the food chain, that's the grassroots, that the money trickles down to them no matter how small it is. So that's where you have the solidarity contribution. That for clubs that have trained a player from 12 to 23, that anytime the player commands a transfer fee, that 5% of the transfer fee must be deducted and it must trickle down from the clubs where he's played from 23 to 12 years. This applies to both male and female football. Of course, if you want a transfer fee now or tomorrow, your grassroots teams in Nigeria will be smiling to the bank. Then for training compensation, it applies only to men's football. That is this caters for the expenses incurred by clubs in training, development, and education of players from the age of 21 or age of 12 to 21, but it stops being paid when a player clocks 23. But it's a very tricky uh one, unlike solidarity that has no except and against if this if that. For training compensation, it says if a player is transferred for the first time as a professional, then all the amateur clubs will get paid training compensation.
Mm.
If it's in the subsequent transfer of a professional, only the last professional club will get training compensation. Now, if there's a transfer compensation, transfer fee or sell-on, it is assumed that training compensation is subsumed inside of this transfer compensation. Um, if a player goes on loan and moves on subsequently, even if remember they said in the event of a subsequent transfer of a professional, only the last club. But what if he has gone on a loan to a professional club, and now that professional club transfers him? It means that both the club that has had him on loan and last professional club will be entitled to training compensation because if I interpret the loan period as a single unit of registration,
Mm.
so that is like basically what it is all about. And then why it's important, as I said earlier, it's like a well, or I'll call it like a sumo. It's a pumping machine. If the pumping machine gets spoiled, water cannot be pumped around the house. So
Mm-hmm.
these grassroots teams are okay. These are training compensation and solidarity. These are like the pump that powers what do you call it, water to all the parts of the house. So if it gets spoiled, if this money does not come, then how do these grassroots teams, how are they able to scout players in the farthest and the remotest part of Africa and Nigeria? So this money is very important for them to survive because it makes sure that they are properly rewarded, youth development becomes sustainable, and the talent pipeline remains intact. It is not tried. If you ignore them, you see development stalls, the quality in player scouting drops. You see small clubs who die natural deaths because how do they continue to survive? Do they scout players with the money meant for their children's school fees? The answer is no. There should be a reward system. If we give A, we get B. That is the essence of training and solidarity contribution. And then also, when they are ignored, exploitation thrives. You see, in fact, it's thriving currently. And I think this thing helps Africa more because you barely see clubs who are willing to pay transfer fees to players, to clubs in Africa, but they are willing to pay training compensation. So these are ways for younger, small clubs or training clubs to survive and thrive in all over the world, not just in Africa.
So looking at how you just mentioned now, and I know that there might be clubs in Nigeria or across Africa that is not even aware of some of these things, and they've transferred players like their best talents and all. I think only few clubs will be benefiting from all of that. That's why this conversation is also very important. That they know that all your work, all your effort is not going for free, and which boils down to the fact that they need to work with a legal practitioner, right? A sports legal practitioner. So, because if they are not aware of all of these opportunities that lies into investing into every athlete, they will be exploited. They'll be exploited. And I have a question. Actually, this one is personal. For the solidarity payment, you said okay, it's applicable to both men and the women, right? And it is FIFA pay this money for to the clubs that develop a player from the age of 12 to like 23, right? Right. So this money, is it something that is being done? Is it Is this money disbursed by FIFA yearly, or it is only disbursed on when the players have the opportunity to play in the national team on the national team?
No. So as I said earlier, it has nothing to do with national team. Whenever it's not being paid yearly. If I can be paid weekly, and it is not paid by FIFA. It is only triggered when a player moves and there's a transfer fee attached. So solidarity is 5% of the transfer fee. So 5% of the money will be deducted and it will be spread across those clubs. So
Okay.
so so there must be a transfer fee for solidarity to arise.
Right. So everything now boils down to the club being aware of this clause and include it in the players trans or in the
No,
including
no, it's automatic.
it's
It's
automatic.
automatic. So
Really?
once there's a transfer fee, 5% must be deducted and it must be shared across all those clubs.
Really? And
Uh-huh.
also women, I'm hearing this for the first time because the last time I heard about the solidarity, whatever, from FIFA was actually because we went to the national team and a particular, they said there were a compensation. I think they said they call it compensation, fee to all grassroots teams. And that was the only time that happened. I think around 4 years until you go to World Cup. So I didn't know that it's also applicable to. It's also activated when players transfer from one club to the other. I didn't know that. But thank you for sharing that. I hope that every club will come to the realization of this and know that every time a player moves, you have something to get, like from the agent, from the agency that is
No,
transferring
no, no, from the club. No,
from the
the club's pays. Yeah.
yeah, but usually the club pays it to the agency now, like right?
No,
Not
no, 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 no. So solidarity, when the player moves, five
okay.
percent is deducted and withheld by the selling club.
Okay.
Now, that's what they call the FIFA, the EPP, where the FIFA clearinghouse regulations, where all the clubs will have to be processed through the FIFA General Secretariat. So they are able to put in their arrears accordingly through their federations. And when it's approved, they now go to the clearinghouse for compliance to avoid money laundering and to ensure authenticity. Once this is approved, FIFA will now mandate the club that bought the player to transfer the 5% to the FIFA clearinghouse. Now, the FIFA clearinghouse will now disburse it to all the training clubs personally.
Okay. Let me say I understand what you just said. I understand, but so in situations like this, how will these grassroots coaches or clubs knows that they are entitled to this opportunity? Like this 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 opportunity, yeah. How would they know that they're entitled to this? What steps do they need to take from either when they're training the players to when the players is leaving to the point of tracking the players transfers or the move and to the point of where the players move and they know how to get the money or how to file the documents to get the money from the FIFA Council.
Yeah,
So
so
walk us
I just say,
properly because maybe I
yeah,
missed.
it's just very easy. I just tell every club, get a lawyer to work with you. Just because you can, we have division of labor, so get a lawyer to work for you, and then when these things happen, they just know what to do for you because you cannot do everything.
That's powerful. Just answer the question. It's very simple. First, another thing very important is they should have the knowledge of a lot of things. Like they should be aware. Awareness is very key, right? And educating most of those people, most of the club owners, it's also very key in this situation. But back to your point, get a lawyer. There is division of labor. You have the talent, you have the zeal, you have the passion to coach. Why you have people to follow up with the logo aspect so that all your effort, all your work, all your investment into these players on will not go for free. And not even just going for free or not be wasted. So you can also reinvest back into other talent and keep building more talent. So yeah, get a lawyer. So I will have 3 case studies that I want us to address real quick. And I want to get your perspective on those cases. So, in light of a recent case in Nigeria where a football academy coach was found to be sexually exploiting a young player, what regulations, safeguarding policies, and accountability structures should be put in place to protect young athletes and prevent such abuses within football academies, not just academies, football environment or ecosystem?
Uh, that's a very important listen. I think recently, I think I don't know if I shared it with you. I had to do a FIFA safeguarding certificate program. In fact, it's not optional. I think it's mandate. It is a duty of care that we owe, like for everybody, for every sports administrator where football is being run or administered properly. That we all should, everybody should go undertake or go through the FIFA safeguarding course or program, because these are where you know, these are where you are taught do's and don'ts of how to be with these kids. I don't know what to say, but I think it because if I don't know, like I'm just when I read when I read this, I get a bit confused and I stutter a bit because yeah, we have safeguarding and reporting. I don't know. I don't know. It's a very tricky one. But as far I always say, if you see something, say something. Like parents should get. I think I would say parents should get very close to their child or their children. Get very close to them. Make them very comfortable with you. Make them so comfortable that if somebody talks to them in a manner where they shouldn't be spoken to, they should come back and tell you the words, the exact words they have spoken to them, like those words they've spoken to them. Also, if they are touched inappropriately, they should be able to tell you like this person touched me here, and this person touched me here. And also, possibly when you take these minors to training, because I believe a child of 12, 13 knows what is wrong and what is not, what is right. So when you take all these kids to training, don't leave them alone with some of these coaches or so on and so forth. Like, remember that sexual abuse is not just opposite gender; it could also be same sex or same gender. So I think it's about not leaving these kids alone with whoever is in charge, and also monitor their chat. Don't allow these coaches to send private messages to kids and so on and so forth. Don't chat with them on social media. Like these are like some mechanisms you can put in place to not to limit or to at least reduce to the barest minimum these issues of abuse. When I mean abuse, not just sexual, it could be physical abuse, because some coaches beat up kids for you don't know how to play ball, or why do you have a blue hair, they will knock you out, and then when you get home your child cannot hear very well because he's been abused physically by the coach. So like it's beyond the sexual abuse, like physical abuse, emotional abuse. Oh, you're an idiot. You cannot play. In fact, you will not amount to anything good in your life. This is psychological abuse. So it's beyond this sexual and physical. So it also has psychological. Or in fact, you're so useless that I'm not even sure I'll play you tomorrow in the football match. And you see this little child tomorrow, he doesn't want to go for training because of what the coach has told him or her. So as I said it earlier, we have physical abuse, sexual abuse and harassment, emotional and psychological abuse. Then we have neglect, like poor living conditions. Then we have economic exploitation, and we have online abuse. So what are the things that like? So these are the stuff that we need to work guard against, especially for young players. And you can look at power. You can look at things that causes them: poverty and desperation. I think that for me, that's one of the biggest things. We have a lack of legal awareness. We have weak enforcement of systems. We have power imbalance between players and decision makers. But for me, for most of it, I think it's about poverty and desperation from some of these young kids who are not yet adults. Like, oh, they have been promised X, Y, Z, and then they want to just go for it, and then they fall into the wrong hands. So I believe that if everybody could be educated, like if people encourage, or if federations make it mandatory that before you become a coach, an academic coach, or a listen trainer, or whatever you call it in football, or an agent, because you have agents who deal with minors, that you should undertake the FIFA safeguarding and reporting program or course and have a certificate in it. If not, you won't be able to you won't be allowed to practice or do anything. I think that will go a long way to creating the awareness, and then have a very strong enforcement mechanism in place that sanctions, like once you're caught, you're sanctioned, you're prosecuted, no middle ground, no dilly-dallying, no negotiations, no settlements, in fact, no talk. As if you're caught for sexual abuse, psychological, cyberbullying, you're prosecuted immediately. I think that will set like some sort of deterrence for future guys who want to engage in similar conduct. Safeguard is not a punishment. It's just protection and prevention mechanism. It's not punishment. It's just to protect and prevent these abuses from arising.
Oh, wow, wow. Because I totally 100% agree with you on this part, because education is very key. You need to enlighten these people more, especially people. And that's why, personally, like my foundation, I am very big in coaching education. Because when we talk about talent doesn't just sprout out anywhere. And if you want to build an holistic athlete, you need a coach who is also, at least to an extent, holistically built to build A great, the Bible says, by their fruit we shall know them, right? So if you're a good coach, you will build a good player. You would eventually build a good player. If you're a good coach that has character, that has morals, that has discipline, there's a probability that you have a good player. You will build a player with such character. So that's also
Yeah.
personally, I'm very huge in coaching education, and we keep partnering with either Lagos State, HMB Global Sport, and we hope to do more next year because it's very key. We need to start thinking about building players and in an holistic way. And to do that, we need the coaches to be properly educated, to be enlightened, and of course, God fearing. Because if you are God fearing, you will not lay your hands on a child and be molesting or abusing a child. You will not lay your hands. And as you mentioned, proper sanction. There must be there must be consequences for their action. Like all these things, there must be consequences. It's enough is enough, to be honest. Enough is enough. And when you mention something around parents should be very close to their children, be very free to have some sort of conversation with them, it's great. But our environment, our economy, how one of the biggest points you mentioned, poverty can be one of those things that just lead those children. How dare to just let me just find a safe space to play football, because when there's poverty at home, a parent doesn't even care about the child. Just go find somewhere stay. That's what they will say. Let me just go and hustle, because they need to also meet and make ends meet. Take care of themselves. So when you look at African Nigerian ecosystem, it's really difficult to talk about before you even see a parent taking the child to training. It's except your family is okay. Me personally, my parent never took me to training since I started my football career, except for once where they took me to stadium to go and ride bicycle. Aside that, so I never had when here in Europe, when you see parents rally around your children, bring them to training, stay with them, cheering for them, I just feel like, Lord, I wish I had this, because I don't understand what that means, because I never had that experience. But I mean, thank God now we're where we are now. My mom is coming to watch my game. She have seen one or two of my games now. you know or okay, let's say three. It's huge. But why do we have to wait to this, to that stage? We can't say at home, because we can't even tell our parent, because one, based on your point, there is no relationship. Like, there is a relationship, but those kind of, because we're already outside. You're always say it's son or sita that we are lost outside. So yeah, thank you for clarifying all of that, and also pushing and also emphasizing on the need for coaches and sports people around sports to go through FIFA safeguarding course. It is huge, and I also have responsibility to play too. That I need to also go through that course as well. And so the second case study I want us to also look into is, there was a tragic case involving a young Senegalese footballer. I don't know if you know him, Sheikh Toure.
Yeah.
He believed he was traveling from Senegal to Ghana for a professional club trial, and an opportunity he hoped would launch his career. Instead, he fell victim to a fraudulent scheme run by fake scouts. He was abducted, held for ransom, and killed when his family could not meet the kidnappers' demands. In a situation like this, what legal actions, regulatory frameworks, or protective systems should be implemented within African football to prevent fake trials, to protect young athletes, young players from exploitation, and to combat the trafficking of aspiring athletes?
I said this before. I think it's about education. It's education and awareness. I think that's our biggest stuff. I think over here, we don't invest so much in education and seminars and training and workshops for players or parents, because I'll tell people this. I always tell people that meet me, like, I've had a cousin of a relative who comes to me and tell me, bros, I have this offer from an agency in Europe. Come and fund me. I'm like, I should fund you. Are they legit? He was like, and they're like, so me, who's a lawyer who preaches against exploitation and all this fake stuff, will now use my hard-earned money to fund you. So because of my education and exposure, I had to go and do like some background findings, and found out like the club forged it. It was a forged letterhead and all those things and these things.
Wow.
So for the few that have met me, I always tell them, let me verify, because let's say by the virtue of what we've done, we know like a couple of clubs who you can chat up with, or agencies, and ask them, hey, can you confirm this? And they, oh, no such thing exists within the club. So I think it's about, I tell parents about something like, when you when you get these offers, somebody approaches for this, oh, we can do this, we can do that for you. Verify. Walk to any FA, like state FA. Walk to any football agent, walk to any football person you think is into football. Ask questions. They should be able to like tell you one of two things. And if those people cannot give you the answer, they should be able to know somebody who's ahead of them or above them. Like for example, now, if PSG feminines or your PSG, your feminine team sends invite to a girl, I need to say, okay, Rash, is this correct? Because I know it's not possible for a PSG team to send over to a young child in Nigeria who is just who is an amateur, who has not played any level of professional football. It's not possible. But because of our desperation, and somebody comes with your blue hair, like of course we have this whole sorry about the whole blue hair reference. We have
Okay,
this
okay.
whole
I don't worry. I received the whole punch. I take it
yeah,
one
yeah.
by
We have this whole deep fake technology where people like can clone your face and make it look like if it's true. Like when you get these offers, try and ask questions, contact federations, contact any lawyer, to like do due diligence, to do like due diligence on the offers you've gotten. Because I will not lie to you, Chelsea can never send an invite to a player who has never played in any form of professional football or national team football. Chelsea cannot invite a player not sure, or sure, because they saw his video on social, because they saw his picture on LinkedIn. It's not possible. So, but even if it becomes possible through the grace of God, try and verify. Try and verify. Even Zachariah, who's a prophet, doubted, and those-
becomes possible through the grace of God, verify. Very important.
yeah,
Safeguarding education awareness is very key because parents are too desperate. I've seen parents that will say, I want my child to play football. I am ready to pay anything. That kind of desperation, like I'm ready to play anything. One, is not like even the child is good enough. And secondly, even if the child is good, there's a process. And especially these days where people see the figures around
football.
men players are earning, when they see the like of Osimhen, when they see the like of other great, amazing players from Nigeria, with the figures attached to and all the marketing and branding around football now. Parents are just like, I don't care anything is gonna cost me because they think it's like a lifetime investment. Yeah, so which now deprive them of making the necessary findings. But there, as you were having a conversation the other day about doping and all of that, also said that you are responsible for what is in your body. You are responsible for what is in your. So for every parent who fall into some of those things as well, they're also responsible for this. They are responsible for whatever happens because there's education, there is opportunity for you to make findings from either FAs and all of that. There's an opportunity for you to research the club itself that is giving you the opportunity. Don't just jump into all of this. But we're not saying that what happened to the boy is the good. No, no, no. We do not appreciate that.
Of course,
We would never. We're just talking on
ways
how
to
can
prevent
we
this from happening. Yeah,
exactly how can we prevent this from happening more and more because it's becoming a serious matter. We shouldn't use our desperation because of poverty, because of the economic condition, and just and put our life into danger. So I just hope that we can take the necessary actions. So a lot of our listeners are athletes at different stages of their career. So I want us to walk through some of the key legal things they should really understand. So, why is it important for football clubs, academics, and individual athletes to have a legal advisor? And what specific benefits or protections does legal guidance provide within the sports industry? I know we've said something related to all of this before, but I just want us to hammer on this particular topic, on this particular, question.
I'll use this. I like to use illustrations based on my experience. Well, if you have a lawyer or a legal advisor, some agents can be legal advisors and lawyers at the same time, whoever they are. As a player, you know that once your contract is over, you walk away scot-free. You walk away free. There's no need for a release letter. You meet some players who tell you, "Oh, I need a release letter. Oh, the club has not released me yet." Release you from what? You had a 2 years contract. It has ended. So what are they releasing you from? Or you have a player, a club tells you your ITC will not be released if you do X, Y, Z. Will make sure will frustrate you. You will not play football again. For what? They can't put your ITC down. In fact, even a player can terminate for unjust cause and move on with his ITC. However, the club can only sue him and recover damages or sanctions against the player. But yeah, I think players need to be aware of this. Or you see players, the club tell them, "Oh, what do you call it? You missed training, so we're withholding 50% of your salary." Like, This is tough. This is tough. These things have no place in football. Or you have clubs over here in Nigeria who don't even know. I give you an example. A club had an agreement, and the agreement says that if the club activates the option, if the club exercises the option to buy a player by so date, we'll pay the club XYZ. And the club called me early in the morning in the US winter. That they have a big case for me to handle, and I was so excited, and I got the contract. And the club says if you exercise this option before so date, we'll get so amount of money. Now, this man did not use a lawyer, because if he had used a lawyer, they would have asked, what happens if you don't exercise within that time frame and you do that a day after? Because that option was exercised after 3 weeks, and the money was gone because the contract had a time frame to do that, which they did not do, and the club did that because of course. So when you don't have lawyers, of course, you sign a slavish contract, you mortgage of course, you earn so well, but no, you could earn better. When it comes to, you look at taxation as well. I'm not a tax expert, but I know with tax lawyers, you also know like ways to like manage your taxes or get tax benefit or tax returns. Um, you what will I say now? You don't just do anything. You don't just do everything evil, because you sign contracts that are slavish. They are evil, but they are so interesting when you see. And tell me like, why did you sign it? Like, why I did not see that clause? Of course, when you have a lawyer and the lawyer does not see that clause, you can hold him responsible. But because your duty is to play and score goals, not to go through every clause line by line. At times, you might even go through them and you don't understand what they mean, because they are so finessed with very interesting words that you might not even know that these are very not so nice clauses. Imagine a contract where it says a player, if you get injured, you will not get paid. Or if you don't score the 10 goals, you go home. Of course, these are invalid clauses. So even if a player manages to sign these things and then he does not score 10 goals and the club terminates his contract, the law is very clear. Poor performance is not a ground for termination of contract. So remember, under the system of obligation and what they call it, under the FIFA regulation, Nigerian law, you cannot force a willing employee upon an unwilling employer. So if an employer says, I don't want you again, of course, he has a right. I cannot force you, Rash, to continue playing for, let's say, Rasheedat Ajibade Football Club. If you're tired, you can say, we don't want you anymore. Even if you want to play, we don't want you anymore. But the law is that we must pay you compensation. So you should be compensated for that. Like you see, football clubs hire a coach today. After 1 month, they fire him and they pay him they pay him compensation. So, but if you don't know these things, you see players whom you've met, and then a club owes me so amount of money, or that, and then you check the contract, they are statute bad because 2 years has elapsed, and these claims cannot come again. Like they can't come to FIFA for players. For clubs, the money is gone. Or for some clubs, you remember I say these agents are great. They are the ones that are the movers of the industry. But at times, agents will have to prioritize the business over that of the careers of, sorry to say this, not all the agents out there, but some of these agents prioritize their business over the careers of the athletes they manage or the clubs they represent. Because the agents, they see the clubs as the barracks, and the players and these other small clubs as the soldiers. So you go and come, but the barracks is still there permanently. So the relationship with the barracks is better. The assets of that barracks is better for them, is more profitable than their relationship with you, because let's say the next 10 years, Rash, you're done with your career, of course. Why would I ruin my relationship with peers, with Rasheedat? Let me use Rasheedat FC Football Club in Nigeria. Why should I ruin my relationship with them because of you? When I know you can retire in the next 5 to 10 years, and then I will bring like 10 more players. I'm not saying every agent does this, but some agents do this. So why they are great, some are lawyers, they can walk you through all these processes. I think I always tell people it's best, or it's very good to have that lawyer in your corner whom you can always ask, not to fight an agency or a club, but whom you can always ask to, like, hey, do you think this is correct? This clause, you think it is correct? Okay, even if it's not correct, when this happens, what do I do? We've had instances where players have signed contracts. We saw that those clauses are not so, they should not be there, but we know that they cannot stand the test of time. And we're waiting for the clubs to activate those clauses so we can sue them, or maybe call them to attention, like, oh, if a player does not score 5 goals, you terminate his contract. Haba. These are not obtainable. Or if a player does not pass medical tests, his contract is terminated or will not pay him. FIFA has held over and over and over again. Employment contracts are not subject to medical tests. So it's like a player passing medical test. Yeah. We've had cases where players have failed medical tests. Under whose lens? The club did those medical tests. So was there a second opinion or third opinion? So we had to sue the club, and we got the full value of the contract for the players, because you said even when they have a clause that says this contract is subject to you passing medical tests, It's not so. If you fail it, you will still sue them, or it is subject to you getting your work visa. You meet a player tells you, "Oh, I cannot sue them because I didn't get work visa." That's not your duty. It is the duty of the club who's employing you to make sure that you get your visa and work permit. Your duty is you only become liable jointly, or when they have asked for your visa, when they've asked for your passport and you refuse to give it to them in time, or they've asked for a particular document from you and you refuse to like avail it to them, then you become jointly liable, and you cannot come to sue them for not doing what they ought to have done when you have not aided them or helped them to do these things. So these are things players should like be aware of. Like, yeah, you have an agent. Agency is great. I tell people, I told an agency one day, you guys have your own lawyers that work for you. So why would you tell a player not to have our own lawyer? Because these lawyers draft every document to protect you guys, not for the player. So
This is
when you have an issue with, when you have an issue with the agency, the lawyers will reply you. So who then represents you at that point?
this is wisdom, and this is a very interesting subject matter. Like, it's a very interesting topic. So, talking about the agency, when it comes to choosing an agent or a representative, how can an athlete tell if that person truly has their best interest at heart? Are there any warning signs athletes should watch out for?
No, I'm not saying every agent. I'm not saying they're
No,
all good agents. I'm just saying that, yeah, you should have a lawyer who goes through these things, who goes through it for the second time for you, who just goes through these things. Like, if an agent tells you A and B, of course, I'm a lawyer. Rash, if you call me and tell me you want to sell me a land, of course, you're very honest, you're a Christian, fine. But I'll call a lawyer to go through that thing for me because he has to go through it. If my mother wants me to buy a ladder from his own mother or his own brother, I will just go and pay money because it's my mother. No, I will go through. I will ask my lawyer to go through that document or go through that transaction for me before I pay up money. So that's how I see it. No matter what, you can't just. It's just doing what you ought to do, and nothing more than that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Then, so for as a legal advisor, what would be your advice to an African athlete about to sign a professional contract in Europe or anywhere in the world? What are the major things they should look out for before signing?
First of all, I'll tell players don't sign two contracts because we've had instances where players sign two contracts, one with the club and one with the club sponsor called Image Rights Money, and then let's say player was earning $5. So the club and the player had an agreement for $2, and the remaining $30 was between the player and the company. The company has image not for image rights. Now an issue arose,
Hmm.
and then the player could only recover the $2, not the $30. So you must be mindful of what you sign. You must be mindful, like, of course, if you're signing two contracts, make sure that look at the contents very well, look at the parties. So you don't want to sign a contract you don't want to sign a contract between Rasheedat and Osun State, and then and you're playing for Rasheedat FC. And then when dispute comes, you want to sue Rasheedat FC and you have no contract with them. It'll be interesting to see how that will pan out. Also, you look at clause, you look at aside from salary clauses, your image rights. What are those things you cannot do and can do? Because some clubs will tell you that you cannot grant media interview without consent of the club. If you do that, it can attract sanctions. So if that's in your contract, you must respect that. Or you cannot post some things on social media against your club. So you must look at those clauses. Look at your applicable governing laws. You're a foreign player in a foreign land, and you want to be subject to the laws of that country. Why not put it to a neutral body, which is FIFA, where you are guaranteed of very fair representation, expediency, everything is handled swiftly. So I think for me, these are very important clauses. Of course, the salary, is it net or is it gross? If it is net, you must define those allowable deductions. So they don't want to deduct their own house rent in your own salary. Like, in fact, even if they do, it's not allowed. But always insist that people should define like if it is net, always define those allowable deductions in your contract. Don't leave it open to chance, or don't allow them to put bogus deductions in your contract. And then, yeah, I think so many of these clauses. But like, I cannot maybe if I have a contract before me, I can be walking you through them and so on and so on. Yeah.
I mean, the one you've shared already, from not signing to contract, from understanding image right, from knowing what is supposed to be in your contract in terms of social media presence and all of that, defining the allowable deductions and all. That's huge already. That's huge already, and it still boils down to players just making sure you have a legal advisor that can help you navigate through all of this journey. And talking about posts, you mentioned something about posting, something as small as post or a tweet or something. And you know that in today's world, athletes are very active on social media, more than ever. Most of us we've become content creators, just like us two here, just like me here. It was just that my own is channeled towards, a much more just and good cause, educating and adding value to people. So, from a legal standpoint, what kind of problem do you think can arise from something as small as a tweet or an Instagram post? What advice would you give to us about on that?
Well, so I believe that's where your agencies come in, or even your lawyers. So they will tell you what you should not post. Of course, if you say, "Oh, well done, PSG, good game, we can do better," or we'll go harder, we'll go harder next week. Not as a bad tweet. But when you say, "Oh, PSG, man, you guys suck. You guys are a terrible club," that's a very damning post. Like I'm just giving an example for. I'm giving an example. So like before I believe you have a management. So before you post, I believe you run to, you share the post through your management, because what you think is not is very simple, not injurious to you, might be offensive to the club. So and its level is, yeah. So I think before players make some certain posts, they should maybe run it through their management, so they don't post something that would attract legal sanctions or hammer or disciplinary proceedings against them. So I think that's what I just say. Before you post, just make sure you run it through your management, who are experts in this field already.
Not true. These days, most of us don't even care. We just go on TikTok, we go on Instagram, Twitter, and just we won't even have a time to start saying,
Yeah,
manager,
yeah. Remember, remember you work for a club, which is a brand. So whatever
right?
you do affects the brand, which is the club. So you must
That's
be
true.
very careful as to what you put out there.
Okay, that's very true. You're very right. You're very right. I mean, I have that in my in my own contract, so we all have to be careful. We have to protect the image of the club, and we have to be a very good role model of the club. So anything contrary might might attract the sanction, and
Yeah.
it's very important that as a player you know that. And I'm happy that I know that, and I don't think I want to do that. I mean, I don't even have that kind of values anyway. So you will never find me where there's trouble because I don't want my person beats me. So, looking at, let's talk about a little bit of injuries. Injuries can change everything for an athlete. As an athlete, we're very prone to injuries. How can an athlete legally protect themselves if an injury threatens their career?
That's where we have insurance, like I don't health insurance. I don't know. I think most of the clubs insure you guys. I think that's another important factor that you should look up for in a contract. Like in the event of injury, like is there like an insurance who covers you? Like, because injuries, you can return from injuries. Yeah, at times clubs will pay you, at times clubs will not pay you. And I think, for example, if an athlete gets injured for 4 years and he has a 5 years contract, that's terrible. It will be unfair. It will be unfair to expect the club to pay you your full salary for those 4 years. To be unfair
Mhm.
on them. So, like, ask them, are they insuring you? Where the insurance company pays part of your salary and they pay part, or do you have your own personal insurance subscription that will complement your salary when you get injured? So I think the key is having insurance, like having your health insurance or injury insurance. So when these things happen, you can be rest assured that you are covered. Insurance.
Okay, great, great. Because I mean, it's a bit tricky and complicating um conversation. And the reason why I said so is because this is easy for teams that are players that are in teams that are like top teams. Imagine a player that goes to a kind of, I don't want to mention name. You understand? So those kind of players, how can they protect themselves?
I think if you look at Azaman Sad as an insurance company, there are a couple of them. They have packages and stuff where where you subscribe. So because they cannot ask a player who earns, let's say, $5 to pay $20 monthly. So they
Okay.
are so I think there's a package for everyone. There's something for everyone. So
Mm-hmm.
aside from the club insuring them, players can also decide to like take out those extra insurances on themselves.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense then. At least that now factor those kind of people in who cannot, who when the club is not there to insure them,
Yeah.
and they can always go on their own to look for all. And I think these are things that even agents should help their players to navigate with their players, right? Or is it
Yeah,
something
true.
that players have to do themselves?
You should you can do that yourself or through your agency. Depends on on the player.
Okay, great. So now let's talk a little bit about maternity. As the conversation around players' welfare continues to grow, how are maternal health rights being protected in women's football, and what challenges still exist in ensuring contractual stability for players during pregnancy and maternity leave? From a legal perspective, what reforms or enforcement mechanism do you think are most urgently needed to guarantee that female players aren't penalized or less vulnerable when starting their families?
Well, I will say we don't need any legal framework. To be honest with you, we already have sufficient legal framework. What we have is lack of awareness and knowledge. That's what we need. Like what we should be looking at is sensitization and awareness. Like players are aware that this framework exists, where even it says even as things like menstrual cramps or painful cramps, if you can
Mm-hmm.
provide a medical certificate from a doctor that you are having this, you should be excused and you should be paid for your work. It's about the awareness, not the knowledge in the industry. Like as I said earlier, as a player, if you get pregnant and you're able to provide alternative reasonable service to the club, let's say Rash, you find a husband today and you want to start a family and you have a child. For example, you're female, and then you
Yeah.
get pregnant, and the club says, "Okay, Rash, since you cannot play football because of course it's not medically safe for you to play football. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what you do first is that you come to the pitch, you help us gather the ball, or you help us gather the bib, or give water to the team members as an alternative service to you playing. Of course, if you will do that. If you tell them no, you're pregnant, you cannot come to the club, you cannot do anything for the club. Of course, you will not get paid. You must provide an alternative service to the club. When the club says you come and start gymming or lifting heavy stuff as an alternative service to you being pregnant, that's not valid. So once you do this, you are entitled to your full salary for the whole duration of 9 months when you're pregnant. And then when you go maternity leave, you're entitled to two-thirds of your salary. This also applies to adoptive parents or non-biological parents or parents of same sex, of course. Yeah, when they have their own business. So, yeah, the law is there. I think it's just about the awareness and I think it's about the awareness. The awareness is not out there that we have these laws to protect athletes. Because I've met a couple of players who told me, "Oh, I can't wait to finish my career so I can start my family." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting."
So
Though we know that
now,
these things can alter a woman's life. Of course, we know childbirth is a whole lot. I don't know about it, but I know it's a whole lot. But like in the event a woman wants, like, while you're having your long contract and you have like a family, like the law is there to protect you. That even though you go maternity leave and you come back, the court, in fact, it's so flexible that when you get pregnant and you go maternity leave, the club can register a player in your place. Even if it's out of the window, even if the windows are closed, they can bring a player in your place.
wow.
And then when you return back, even if the window is not open, the club must like there's a room for you to be reintegrated back into the team. The law
Hmm.
is there to protect women like that far.
Wow. Wow. Everything boils down to self awareness. We
Yeah,
have to keep sensitizing people. And wow, I mean, it's huge to know that we have all of these laws that is covering us as women. And if you want to raise your family, we've gone past that level of those days where you have to think about, I'm done with my football career before I start raising our families.
true.
Because we also have to see this football we should see it as a normal job, where in a normal company, people take maternity leaves. People give birth whenever they want to give birth. So same thing applies to football. We want to see it as a normal working environment as well, where women also have the right to do what they need to do. And clubs, most of the clubs have not really welcomed this idea, to be honest, because I know most of them are still cruel to some players, and a lot of players are afraid to take some self or some decisions. But everything boils down to both ways. Clubs need to be sensitized and players also need to be sensitized, so we're all on the same page and we can help the players build their career. You can imagine a female athlete that is already 30, 35, and she's still like, I just want to keep playing because there is not the future, there's not so much they get from women's football is not that lucrative like men's football. Of course, the landscape is changing, But you could see 35-year-old woman or 30 something years old woman, she doesn't have a baby because she's scared of making that decision because of the financial stability. There's nothing that is guaranteed. She's left vulnerable one way. And you see a young boy that is 17-year-old playing in the club already have like two child. You can imagine that kind of thing because one, the economic condition is okay to accommodate that, and of course, men, you don't have to do anything now. So women you have to leave the game for a while. But notwithstanding, they just have to create that system around. I mean, the system is there. We'll just have to make sure that we are aware and then we can plan accordingly when we are ready for that transition. So finally, from a legal standpoint, what steps should athletes take to protect their finances and secure long-term future beyond their playing career? Because this one is very, very important. We'll build a career, use all our life playing football for 20, 15 years, and in the end, there's no sustainable structure, there is no, Lego, whatever that has been taken to protect our finances, and we're left. We've seen a lot of things that have happened with a lot of ex players where they left the game feeling depressed, feeling dejected, even some of them committing suicide because they just feel like they can't weather through the storm anymore.
Well, I'm not an expert, though. When it comes to this field, you're a better expert than myself. I'm trying to even know how to even protect my own self. So when sports law stop paying, I will not be so I will not be stranded. But yeah, but I will liken every player to go watch Okocha's interview, JJ Okocha's interview where he spoke about like planning post retirement. Like when you retire from it was like he spent his bonuses on his lifestyle, never spent his salaries. He saved, he invested. And then when he retired, he already had like businesses in place to take care of him and it was like, if you're on frequency 10 as a player, if you retire, you should come down to frequency 7 or 6, unless you've made proper planning that keeps you above what you were doing, because these salaries will not, imagine from any weekly, monthly, and then you retire and then there's nothing for like a couple of years. So I think for this question, I would just prefer every player and even myself to go and watch J.J. Okocha's interview on post playing career and what he's done to like ensure sustainability and longevity. That's what I would advise.
Oh, wow, great. Great. I personally will go and watch his episode, that interview. Where did he make the interview? Do you know where the interview is so we can, if
I
it's
think it's on IG. I think it's on IG. I'll try and send you the link of it. But it was on LinkedIn.
okay, no problem. Then we'll have to tag the interview here so you can help players keep growing and help them understand how they have to plan after their football career. Because you're hearing from the legend. So if any legend already have the results and he has the workings, so there's
Yeah.
no doubt. So then you shouldn't doubt it. So about your faith, how did you come to know Christ? How did you come to know? I know you mentioned something about Catholic before, like being a. So how did you come to the knowledge of Christ? Tell us.
Like people like us, I wouldn't say we're given choice. We're given a choice. Like I was going to the Catholic Church, so as a child, I was already baptized into the
Okay.
Catholic Church. So I grew up in the church, but I think that does not equate faith. So I think
Mm-hmm.
I came to first contact. I came to like realize
Know
my
Christ
faith
for
or
yourself.
know
Yeah.
Christ one. I think that was in 2000 when I was 10 or 11 years, when I was about to repeat a class. And I went to the chapel to pray. I told God, if you can do this for me, I don't repeat this class. Even if I fail this course, I will do this in return. Yeah, I have serious faith. Then if I have faith, and then I just made that as a child, that commitment as a child. And then I failed that course and I was still promoted. I was like, oh wow. So faith works.
It's that moves mountain. You know when the Bible says
Yeah.
only those who believe. I see when it said
Yeah.
only if you believe, it doesn't have to do with you're a child, you're an adult, irrespective of your culture,
Yeah,
your
yeah,
background,
yeah. So
religion.
going to church, of course, said when where two or more are gathered, he's there in their midst. Are very important. But I think that's not our faith. Our faith is, I think faith is I think faith and salvation, these are very personal stuff to everybody. Like, so like
Mhm.
for me, someone that like my sisters would tell me, Pius is a man of great faith. Like, I don't believe anything is impossible. I don't believe anything is impossible. Like, even if it's not possible, I believe like unless God, like someone will always say, like once you have faith and you pray and it does not happen, it means God. If you pray and then what you pray for did not happen, I shared this experience with you when I met you in Paris. Someone said even when if you pray with faith and God does not grant what you've prayed for exactly, He's answered you because maybe His silence is still not the
Silence
answer.
is an answer.
The answer.
Oh,
Yeah, so,
Apostle.
yeah,
Your children
that's what
are here.
Selman said. Like, yeah, silence is an answer already, or maybe you're not ready for that prayer you're making, that request you're praying for,
You're not
or maybe
prepared for that prayer.
or
Like,
maybe the answer will bring sorrow because it said the gift of God does not bring sorrow. It's all about joy and fulfillment. It does not bring sorrow. Maybe that's in your prayer for will bring you untold sorrow and hardship, and God is silent or doesn't want it to happen because this is what's to bring you. Like, he doesn't want His own gifts to bring you sorrow. So I think, I think that. So I think my faith I've tested my own faith. It has been tested, and we are still waxing strong. And I made very. I think for this year, my goal was to discover my faith. And then I'm a Catholic too. I'm a Catholic, strong Catholic, for very strong Catholic. But listen to Selman, I think it's helped me like rediscover myself, my faith. Like, I've doubted some things, like when you pray to God to do certain things and then they don't happen, or when you pray, when your friends get what you're praying for and they don't get you, like, "Ah, God, am I the worst sinner? Or am I not qualified for this?" And all these things, like, or when you lose loved ones very close to you and you're asking God like what is going on, or when your parents fall seriously sick. Yeah, well, I just think like for me, faith is very personal. Like, people cannot help you with your faith. So the same way salvation is personal, like it's very personal. Everyone can say they have faith until it's tested, and testing it is very subjective because it's just for you and for you alone. Nobody knows when your faith is being tested. Nobody knows what you have faith on. I just know that I want my faith to be as strong as that of Job.
wow. That's powerful, honestly. See, as I'm just, because I'm really wild, because I'm blessed by what you just said and shared now. Um, if you're not a lawyer, what would you have done? What would you have, what other career path would you
I'll
have
be a
taken?
priest.
Would have been a priest.
Yep.
Okay, okay, great.
And I might
Hmm,
still go back. I don't know. I might still go back.
okay. I
Yeah.
don't want us to press on that matter. So, what's your biggest lesson as a sport lawyer?
Oh man, the industry is very small. Be kind. Be kind to everybody you meet because yeah, if you're unkind to Rasheedat, you don't know in the next room. You might be talking to Asisat in the next room, and she's Rasheedat's best friend or sister. Oh man, and Rash has told her this guy's a mean or cruel man. I mean, I think my biggest lesson is be kind to everybody. Be kind. Be professional. No matter how friendly I am with you, I cannot come and tell you, oh, I did this job for Asisat or for Onome or for Hale or for Alozie. I think it's just my biggest lesson is just be kind to people. Like, you saw my event about FLAM, be respectful. I think be respectful and be kind to everyone around you and be polite. Like, you saw like somebody had to travel from Mexico over 28 hours flight. A cast arbitrator for over 30 years had to fly all the way from Mexico to Abuja because of small tiny me. We had a lawyer, Silla lawyers, Georgie, who's like one of the biggest names in global football, come down to Nigeria just for me. And we had Kaja from Uganda, AP UK, like come down because of so I think be kind, be respectful, and then try to build a very good relationship in the industry because it's a very, for me, it's a very small industry. Everybody knows everyone here. So you have to build very strong connection. Like today, George is in Serbia and he met Drew. And then Drew like, oh, I know Pius. So it's a very small industry and very small circle. Be kind, be respect. For me, be kind, be respectful, be polite, and try and build as much relationships as possible. And
Wow,
network.
network. Wow, be kind, be professional, be respectful, build relationship and network. It's a small word. It's a small word. And all of this you just mentioned is applicable to every field of endeavors. And if you do it, to be honest, you never go wrong. You never go wrong. You mentioned it's talking about FLAM. You said you mentioned FLAM right now, and you mentioned a whole lot of great guys. I saw one of the reels there when they asked, I think the big boss, they asked him, "Is this your first time?" And you say you grew up in the northern Africa. I think that was Morocco. And he said the host asked him, "Is this your first time in Nigeria?" He's like, "No, this is not my first time in Africa, but this is my first time in Nigeria. And why are you here?" He said, "I'm here not because of FLAM. I'm here because of Pius." That's
Yeah.
interesting. And it boils down to what you just said, being kind, having a building good relationship. If it's not for relationship, or you've not been kind or polite, or you've not treated those people well, I don't think you've had people, those top guys and top boys, because he mentioned the name of his company in Bulgaria and all of that, and came down to Lagos because of you. It must be a whole lot more than the talent, the skill, your level of intelligence. It's way much more than that, which boils down to all of these, characteristics that you just mentioned. So now, talking about FLAM, you are the visionary behind it. Nigerian first sports law mode. I don't think I've heard any other one in Nigeria. Can you tell us how the idea came about and what inspired you to start it? And what was your initial vision for FLAM and how has it evolved over time?
I don't when we talk, I tell you I like money very well. I like money so much. So if you come to me for consultation, you have to pay me. Yeah, of course. If you come to me as PCN, you have to pay. But and then when you talk about mentorship, how many persons can I mentor as a person? I think very, very few, very limited number of persons. So the whole idea of FLAM was to, I told you, when I started in the industry, there were not so many mentors to look up to. I had to like rely on self-reading, asking questions. We had just few persons, OKOB, MOB, just very few persons to look up to in the industry. So the goal is to like, of course, make yourself accessible, gather these professionals in one room where students can access them, lawyers can access them, clubs can access them. So for me, it was like, the goal was to promote the knowledge of sports law in Africa. One, educate grassroots clubs, stake coaches, agents, federations, and then gather in a room like a wide range of individuals where people can network and learn from each other. I think that was my goal, and then also like expose the students to the basics of sports law at a very early age. So Bible says, teach a child the way he should go, so that when he
Oh,
grows, he does not depart from it. So teach them these things at a very early age, so that when as they are living, they can have career options or choices that they will make or choose from. I think that's been the goal of FLAM, and I think we have not deviated. We are waxing stronger. We've had we had clubs in Middle East and Asia contact us like, can you open up FLAM to our country? And like, well, it's for Africa. Maybe in the nearest future, we might make it open close. We invite few schools to come join us, but the goal is to drive sports law. The goal is to drive football law education in Africa. That's the goal of FLAM.
wow. Wow, I can only say wow. And this was the second edition you just hosted. And the second edition looks like you've been doing it for like 5 years. No one will see it and think maybe it's the second edition. And I can only say well done and thank you, because it takes somebody with a big heart to say, I want to change the environment with the knowledge that I have. I want to change the status quo. I want to keep educating people because it's important. Because what you just did is capital intensive. You said you like money, but it doesn't look like you like money, because when you look at what you spend for that event, it's way more than, I think you spend more than you, I don't think you get anything anyways. So the only thing I think you get from that event is the knowledge, the impact you're able to make, and maybe, yeah, the impact and the awareness that there's something called FLAM PCN that exists, that can always help you, guide you through anything legal issues or situations. And that's the only thing. But I know it was capital intensive. I mean, for people who have hosted events before, and God bless your heart, sir. And that vision, I pray that God keeps you in that vision and keep helping that vision grow and blossom. So, this particular question is something that also very important for me. You lead people in FLAM, you're able to organize people. Also with PCN Sportiva, you're able to organize people. I know we've had a conversation around this behind the scene before. I'm just very curious to know, and for the sake of people who be connecting, because you are more like a leader and the head, you're in the helm of affairs in your own industry. How do you coordinate? How do you get the people that you work with to deliver, to achieve the set goals and objective of your vision? How
Okay,
do you
thank you. Yeah,
how
thank
do
you very much.
you get the
You
best?
mentioned you mentioned something before. And then I mentioned something before. It's very important when you work with people. When you're kind, you must be kind to people. You must be respectful to people. Your superior, your equals, your subordinates. You must be very respectful and kind towards them. And their welfare must be very important to you. I think only an idiot would see somebody who genuinely cares, or only an idiot, a fool. Say only a fool say there's no God. Only a fool will be in the winter shivering and dying of cold, and somebody's bringing jacket to the fool, and he or she's running away from the
Mm-hmm.
from the winter jacket. So I think it's just being kind, being respectful, have their best interest at heart. I think that's just what I do with my team. Be kind to them, be respectful, lead them well, just show them the path. Like, hey, we are together. This is our project, and when you do this, yeah, you get the best. Well, not you get. I'm getting the best from my team. Yeah, I'm getting the best because these are like my core principles. I'm kind, I'm respectful, and it's our project. It's our project, not my project. It's our project.
It's our project. Hmm. Wow, that's really powerful. Be respectful, being kind, prioritizing your staff's welfare. That's people work with you, prioritizing their welfare, carrying
Yeah.
them along. It's a side by side thing, not if one person is in front and the other people are behind. No, not a subordinate and what's the other one? Factoring their vision into your own vision. As you mentioned, it's our project, not my project. That's huge. That's huge. I need to learn from that when it comes to leadership advice. That's huge. And I'm gonna keep it in my archive and start using it in as I grow and as I evolve in my own journey as well. Another question of Flamo. What are the challenges you
Sorry,
face when you're
sorry.
launching
Uh,
this?
as you said, it's a very big project. So my biggest challenge has been is capital. Like as you said, I like money, but I've had to like deep. I've had, I was talking to some months. I think last month I was like, I've had to like deep hands deeply into my pocket to fund this initiative. Like bring the resource persons, coordinate the events, provide hotels for the guests, for the students, feed the guests, feed the students. In fact, beg the stakeholders to even come and learn because you're doing this to help the legal the sports ecosystem, and then they seem to run away from it. So the capital is one. Then trying to even get people to come and attend the programs and other stuff. But this year there was massive progress because we had a 2-day event this year.
Oh,
But as I said, we look forward that we hope that in subsequent editions we'll have clubs who will come out like to say, oh, companies, this stuff means a whole lot to the sports ecosystem. Let us invest in it. Not for profit making, but at least to because the truth that I can only do but so much. If I continue to fund plan for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, unless God will continue to provide, yeah, you might just get weary and then fold up.
mhm.
But we hope that by the grace of God, we will not grow weary and
Amen. 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 What is next for Flam? What
oh
is
well.
next? What is the legacy you hope Flam will leave for future generations of sport lawyers?
Well, I think what's next? I think when I was speaking at FLAM this year, I was like, the true test of legacy is when you have lived or you've run your race and you've left this mortal earth, and then with the legacy or the tree you've planted is still bearing fruit. So I think
Mm-hmm.
my goal is that FLAM will continue to be the umbrella where we educate the young lawyers, expose them to international opportunities, educate our local ecosystem, our grassroots, so they're able to tap in from the numerous opportunities that exist in football and drive our football development forward. I think that is like my dream, and I hope we would continue to stay on this path and we don't deviate from this our mission. And for next year, we hope to see about 100 universities in FLAM and it's happening in Lagos next year. So we'll see how it goes next year. But I think this is what we're doing right now. Yeah.
Do we have a date? We don't have a date
No,
yet.
no, 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 not that yet, but in
Okay.
Lagos. Yeah.
Next year in Lagos, hopefully 100 student, 100
Universities in Africa.
universities in Africa. No problem. I mean, when I look at, I was following people bumper to bumper because, yeah, I needed to see and understand how, the FLAM works. And when I saw the result, when I saw the prizes that some of this university won, um, I was amazed. I was amazed. And I'm pretty sure that there's no doubt that a lot of schools will want to up into it next year. From winning it $1,500, that's even the first position. The second also has like $1,000 for the prizes, and they have opportunity to intern in some of this top law
FMC in
firm
Europe.
in
Yeah, all
Europe.
expense paid.
All
All expense
expense
paid.
paid. Can you imagine? Like, just because you're there to express yourself to learn, and now you're even being rewarded and having much more opportunity. You know, it's just huge to see that kind of opportunity that's been given to them through FLAM, and it can only get better. That's honestly what I know. So let's take our calendar for next year in Lagos. Lagos, my state, my city. I will be there. Let's be hopeful. Let's be hopeful. I wish to be there. So finally, to an aspiring sport lawyer whose dream is to achieve their full potential in sport industry, but find themselves feeling stuck and uncertain of their path. What practical advice would you give them to keep their vision alive?
Go to my social media pages every day, and your hope will be alive. No, 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 no. I'll just keep the faith. I think the industry is far easier than it is when we stepped in. It's far easier than when we stepped in. Network, seek for men. I would just say network and get a mentor. Simple.
Seek for mentorship. Get a mentor and network. Okay. I hope whoever is in that sport industry and is feeling stuck, and they can look at your journey, look at your life, how you got to this point where you are, and they can feel inspired. And aside that, seek for mentor and network. So if somebody wants to reach you now on, maybe they need a legal representation, how can they get you?
I'm a very
Or
active person. No, yes, my social media, my Instagram, my Instagram, my WhatsApp, iMessage, LinkedIn, X, anywhere at all. TikTok,
so what
Snapchat,
what
everywhere.
what are your pages on those things, on those
My
in
my
those
two names,
chats?
Pius Ndubuokwu. My two names, Pius Ndubuokwu. Nothing more than that. No
So on
special
LinkedIn,
password.
you're on LinkedIn, you're in Twitter, you're on Instagram, you are
Everywhere.
on TikTok.
Snap.
So on all of the
Anywhere.
social. Okay,
Yeah, it's
great.
just
We
my
can
name.
always, okay. So if you have any legal, need a legal representation and all of that, you can always reach out to. We would also tag it anyways in all of our episode. Or we'll tag you as well, so that players who need representation, because it's very important that we take this seriously, so we can avoid exploitation and players can be properly protected even while they're doing what they love to do, and they can even transition properly and all of that. And you leave the job feeling happy, feeling refreshed, and feeling blessed that you've done what you've done. So, Mr. Pius, we've come to the end of this episode.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you so
So thank
much.
you to you too. Thank
Yeah.
you to you too. Thank you for your time. I know it was an hassle for us to be on this particular episode. For finally, we got it done. 2 hours of your time. It's a lot. I could see the whole calls that was coming in. It's business call, it's all of that, but you were like, you
Yeah.
prioritize it.
It's
Thank
all
you
right.
for sharing all of the valuable insight with us. And I hope that this blessed a lot of people. And I hope that it keep inspiring them, and that they get a lot of value from these, and they're also strengthening their Christian experience, because there's a God factor that works for you in all that you do to get to this point where you are, because you never neglected it. And there's also the intelligence, the human factor, where you have to play your role, your responsibility to grow to the point where you've gone to, and which is what you exemplify. You are a bundle of all of what Rash4Christ is all about, and that's why we brought you here as one of our guests. So thank you for blessing us. Thank you for
Thank you
all the
so much for having me.
word of inspiration, and God bless you, sir. So, guys, what a powerful session we just had with Mr. Pius Ndubuokwu, Barrister Pius Ndubuokwu. I'm pretty sure you've got a lot of value from this session. And if you've gotten a lot of value from this session, I would like you to go onto Pius Ndubuokwu's page at Ndubuokwu on Instagram, on all his social media page, at Ndubuokwu Pius on all his social media page, and please follow him, like his content, shares, subscribe to his also their pages, and tell him thank you. Just help me bombard his pages with thank you, thank you. I got value from what you all the conversation you had on Rash4Christ podcast, and that's why we're here to say thank you. In fact, tell him Rash sent us here to tell you thank you. So, guys, I hope you've been blessed. You have been blessed. This podcast, this episode will not come to an end without we having the most important part of this whole vision, which is called to salvation. And if you're just watching this podcast for the first time, or you're a Christian, or you feel, or you're are yet to come to the knowledge of Christ, or you're struggling, you want to rededicate your life to Christ, is also an opportunity for you to do that right now. And what I want to say is Romans chapter 9, verse 10 says, If thou shalt confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thy heart that God hath raised him from the dead, that thou shalt be saved. So that is the only way you can be saved, is to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. You should confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that he died and was raised by God to life, and you will be saved. And I encourage you to take that bold step to say, Lord Jesus, I confess today, I believe that you love me. I believe that you died for my sins. You died and rose again on the third day. I want to love you. I want to walk this journey with you. I want you to teach me your ways. I want to walk in your ways. I want to walk in your will. Lord Jesus, I don't want to go back to my bad ways. I don't want to go back to the ways that doesn't glorify you. I want to start moving from this moment to know you more. Help me, Lord, to know you more. Help me to strengthen my Christian experience and to live according to your glory. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So if we just make that prayer, I want to say congratulations and God bless you for taking that bold step. We've just explored an incredible journey of our guest today. From his humble beginnings to building a respected sport law firm, overcoming professional hurdles to shaping the legal landscape of Nigerian sports, his story is a true reminder that purpose, resilience, passion, being kind can rewrite any script whatsoever it may be. And hearing how he navigated his challenges, broke barriers, and stayed committed to excellence is not just inspiring, it's a call to action for anyone striving to make impact in their field. His experience reminds us that the path of success isn't always straight, but with consistency, with not taking no for an answer, with a clear vision, it's always worth it. A huge thank you to him for sharing not just his expertise, but his journeys and his lessons. A story like this pushes the industry forward and reminds us why conversation like this matters. And to our Rash4Christ family, thank you for watching. Thank you. Be reminded today that God still lives, that your past doesn't disqualify you. It only prepares you. And that when purpose meets faith, the world take notice of it. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration today. So please feel free to give your feedback in the comment section and suggest which guests you would like to see next. We pay attention to all of your feedbacks, and we do well to invite the guests that you want us to speak to. So as I mentioned earlier, follow Pius on all the social media platforms. Follow us on Rash4Christ, Rash_4_Christ, and follow me on Instagram at Rasheedat10 for more inspiring stories. Until next time, please keep chasing your dreams, keep believing in yourself, and remember that we are all created for God's glory. And how do we bring glory to God? In the book of John 15, verse 8, answers that correctly. The Bible says, herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So bearing fruit in this context means being productive, being valuable, and being an asset. Being an asset. So, hence, in this kingdom, there is no room for mediocrity. There is no room for average. So we encourage you today to keep striving for excellence in all that you do. Ultimately, let Christ be at the center of everything that you do. And also remember that success is achievable while maintaining your faith in God. You don't have to compromise. There is a God way to do everything just to get the best and the greatest result that you want. So this is Rash4Christ podcast. It's all about impact, inspiration, and the kingdom. Until next time, stay blessed and bye for now. God bless you.